Good afternoon to you, Mark's out of HurricaneTrack.com. Here it is Friday the 3rd of June 2022, and it's time for the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. We have a lot to talk about today. A big washout for South Florida. We got PTC1 out there. We have 92L not far from Bermuda, raising a little bit of a ruckus in the weather world, looking better organized overall than 91L or PTC1. Whatever, we're going to talk about it all. It's good to have you here this afternoon, so let's take a look at what we've got. Here is PTC1, that whole experiment the Hurricane Center has been trying for the last few years here. I won't say it's an experiment, it's operational, naming the system as potential tropical cyclones before they become official tropical cyclones. This allows the issuance of watches and warnings and other things to be done in government work while they anticipate a high chance of something becoming a tropical cyclone. I know there's a lot to digest, but you know, the bottom line is we have a big weather system headed for Florida over here. It's already impacting the area, and so this PTC thing is just a label, you know, and you got to think impacts. Well, what is it going to do? That's how you should think about this. And here's 92L. You remember this was outlined over here a few days ago, then it kind of dropped off. Now it's back, and so we'll take a look at that in more detail today. Here are the stats from our very own CJ who put this together. I like this infographic from the 1 p.m. Central Time. Why do they say that? Because the system down here, PTC number 1, is in the Central Time Zone currently in its longitudinal position. Once it moves a little bit more to the east and northeast, it'll eventually cross over into the Eastern Time Zone, and then it'll be EDT. Just explaining that for you. This is what the Hurricane Center says. They do it where it's located. Anyhow, as of 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 central 40-mile-per-hour wind. It's not, even though that is strong enough for tropical storm intensity, it hasn't completely closed off yet, so it's not quite there. It's like it's being built, but it's not ready yet. So I know it's confusing, but that's what it's called. That's what we're going to go with. Here are the stats. Pressure down to 1,003 millibars, so there is a little bit of a drop in the air pressure out there, and it's moving northeast at 5. And as we will see on the satellite imagery here, as we go from the wide shot to the more in-depth and detailed high-resolution visible, you'll see it's not that well organized. Clearly, you can see where it is, over here in the extreme northwest Caribbean Sea, southern Gulf of Mexico, Yucatan Channel region. We say it, the center of circulation, what little of it there is, probably around here somewhere, but the weather, the really rough stuff, if you want to call it that, and all things are relative. You know, we're not talking about a hurricane here, but it has a lot of heavy rain, squally weather. It's creating a lot of travel nightmares down here in Florida, from the interstate travel to air travel. The different major airports are going to get more and more clogged as flights get canceled and delayed. So yes, this is a big deal because it's going to impact a big population area. You don't have to have a bona fide hurricane to create big problems. I want to always make that clear. Rest of the tropics, nice and quiet, strong upper-level winds cutting across. The deep tropics out here, westerly winds prevail over the subtropics, and even some pretty decent westerly winds, for the most part, in the vicinity of our potential tropical cyclone number 1. One of many this year, probably. We'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. So here's a high-resolution satellite animation from Tropical Tidbits. And just by looking at this, it is difficult. You can't look and go, ooh, I know where the center is. There's just a large rotating area in here. Might be a stronger center of circulation happening here. These different vortices, the plural of vortex, right? You know, the whole thing's rotating. You got different spirals in here. It's just a big mess, mainly because strong upper-level winds are cutting across the system, not allowing, and this is important, allowing those thunderstorms to just blossom up and then spread out in the atmosphere with light winds aloft. Everything needs to be moving in the same direction very uniformly, and that is not the case. The upper-level winds are cutting across the system, and that is keeping it from aligning and getting itself vertically stacked. In other words, it's disorganized. So there you go. Clearly, you can see that on the satellite animation here. But that doesn't negate the fact that, look, you got these bands coming in. This one's south of Cuba. All of this in here is heavy rain and squalls out over the open southeast Gulf, headed towards South Florida. I'll show you a tremendous radar animation in just a moment from Mark Nissenbaum at Florida State, one of my favorite sites. Meanwhile, there's Bermuda out here in the Atlantic. Let's use blue to highlight this. There's Bermuda. Got a good friend and one of our back-end developers, a tremendous friend of the project. He's on a cruise ship somewhere out here. Yes, I think it's the Mariner of the Seas. Had to leave early from Bermuda. So look, these things, this is what I'm talking about. They have impacts. You know, you don't have to have the big headline-making events, and you may get tired of me saying it, but just trying to get people to think impact, not is it a hurricane or not, and if it's not, I don't care. Because I guarantee you, our good friend here, we'll just call him Mike, that's his first name, but we won't go farther than that, or further than that, just to keep a little bit of anonymity for him and his family. I guarantee you this is impacting him, his family's mood. Yes, it sucks. They had a cruise planned. They were going to be in Bermuda a day longer. They had to cut it a day short. Now they're out over the ocean. It's probably going to be choppy. I don't know exactly where they are. Maybe they've already cleared the worst of the weather. From this system, that's 92L. Then they have to deal with PTC1 as it comes across. But enough about Mike and all the other people on Mariner of the Seas. What about Bermuda? Well, this system is headed that way generally, so you could get some rain. Looking at you, Howard. Howard and Mike got to meet, just so you all know. You probably don't care, but they're good friends of our project here. But yeah, you got some rain coming for our other friends in Bermuda too, not just Howard. Maybe some squally conditions, a quick rise in the wave heights, that kind of thing. Good for the tanks, your cisterns over there. Fill them up with some fresh water if you need it. I haven't checked drought conditions out in Bermuda lately, but if you need it, a little bit of it is coming without too much other fanfare, hopefully, right? All right, vorticity really tells the story here. Look, it's stretched out. It's not circular. You know, it's still kind of amorphous. The same with our system out here near Bermuda. A little bit of a concentrated area here to the southwest of Bermuda, but this is all elongated down here with PTC1, Alex to be, maybe, we'll see. Hey, wouldn't that be something if this became Alex here before this did? And, you know, what's this, the B one, Alex, and what is it, Bertha or Bonnie? I think it's Bonnie. Yeah, I should know this. Come on, Mark. What if the one near Bermuda is Alex and then that one's Bonnie? You never know. Stranger things have happened. But this is the vorticity chart that I like to show you. And you can really look at this and go, yeah, you know, wind-wise, organization-wise, neither of these two systems look ready to ramp up and become big wind machines. So you can kind of scratch that off, but then you need to think, well, what will it bring? And we're talking heavy rain for both systems, certainly the South Florida system, PTC1, and with areas of onshore flow in Florida, we could get some storm surge. So here you go, case in point. Tremendous radar animation here from Mark Nissenbaum. I think he's PhD, so Dr. Mark Nissenbaum down at Florida State University. You know, this is South Florida here. Pretty much we'd call this South Florida. There's probably more of a geographic area that you folks refer to as South Florida, but geographically, just generally speaking, this is the southern part of Florida, clearly, and it is clearly covered in a lot of rain. A lot of it, everywhere. So you're driving down 95, the Turnpike 75 on the west coast, going across over to Collier County. And look, this is a nightmare. All the people down there, people trying to get down for the weekend, bringing their boats, their RVs, whatever else, and they're going to head down to the Keys. You know, probably people aren't wanting to cancel. They probably can't cancel, which is a whole other issue. I mean, you're stuck with your $500 a night room, so you're going to go. So you have to be mindful of this. Just a little bit of water on the roadways, you can hydroplane, and hydroplaning can lead to a funeral a week later. And I don't mean to be morbid about it, but we have to pay attention. You know, that's my number one goal. I say this often. I got to keep you alive, if not for selfish reasons, because I need you to be able to justify me being here, right? So just look at it that way. I got to keep you healthy and alive so you can even view these things that I put together for you. So watch out. This is a big rainmaker, and it's going to last for a little bit longer. All right? Nice tweet here from the Storm Prediction Center. Yes, South Florida in the slight risk for severe weather. Why? Because some of those bands could create conditions that would be favorable for potential water spouts. And as they come on shore, even briefly down in the Keys, they could become tornadoes. A couple of those stronger cells or convection could create some higher wind gusts that reach severe limits. Not really any hail potential, very little hail in tropical systems unless they're really intensifying near the core. That's a story for another day. This is more for the wind gusts and the potential for waterspouts, and as they come on shore, like I mentioned, possibly becoming tornadoes. So just keep that in mind. Part of the overall nasty package. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is what it is. It is hurricane season, so here we go. We have to deal with it. So the GFS, our good friend, the Global Forecast System, and the Euro both have a real good handle on this. Look at that. The vorticity signature from the 12Z guidance today, 850 millibars in the atmosphere. That's the same level. Again, I'll just show you real quick that we have this chart. This is an analysis. This is the model interpretation, and it's got a good handle on it from the initialization this morning. What happens? The whole mess moves up towards Florida. It stays elongated, rather disorganized. Then, once it reaches north of the Bahamas here, it starts to get better organized. And our other system, by the way, goes by Bermuda. We'll rewind the clock here and see what happens with that. Not much fanfare with it. There it is right there. 92L, sorry. So already a lot to keep up with, and it's only June 3rd. So PTC1 should eventually become Alex. It may do so before Florida. It probably would do it after. I think there's a better chance of that. Finally getting its act together, and maybe a sizable tropical storm passing. Again, Howard, sorry. You're in the shooting gallery already this year. You're in the zone. And our other friends in Bermuda. I know a few people over there. Jay at the Swizzle Inn, a very popular spot there. Maybe another system headed your way. This would be Alex. We'll watch that closely for you. And that could have stronger impacts with wind, high wave action, especially on the south and west facing beaches of Bermuda. So that is something we're going to watch. And that's only about 84 hours out. Just real quick, going out ahead, many, many days. Nothing else really to worry about in the deep tropics here. We'll just look at day 10 just for fun, because there's not much going on overall. Big high pressure sets up probably here over the Atlantic. That's a pretty dominating feature in June. Maybe some mischief tries to develop in the southeastern Pacific. Again, this is 10 days out. We'll just wait and see. Severe weather still an issue outside of South Florida. The highest threat up here in the yellow from New Mexico, Texas, up through Colorado, where I just was. Beautiful part of the country, I'm telling you. Storm chasing is, you got to be dedicated. And the reward is really, I get more into it later in some of my documentary work, but I really had an interesting time out there. I learned a lot. I love the geography, the people we meet, and then the weather can be spectacular. But anyway, back to the topic. Slight risk in the yellows there that you see, including my neck of the woods down here in southeast North Carolina. What are the risks, though? Categorically, this is what it looks like. But how about tornado? Highest in New Mexico, Texas Panhandle, and the highest in the land, if you will, right down here in extreme South Florida. What is that? Monroe, Dade, Broward, maybe, down into the Keys. Basically extreme South Florida, the Everglades, over to rural areas of Collier, maybe mainland Monroe, down into the Keys. That's Monroe County. Pay attention, 5% chance. That's not zero. And you got a lot of people down there, like I said before. And, it could be problematic. The wind threat, highest in the yellows there. Hail, it's all out west in Texas and eastern New Mexico. Good friend of ours, Eric Webb, out there chasing some of this activity today, observing it. That word chasing, I don't know. I mean, it's okay. It's more of a media moniker. He's observing. And he's a scientist. He's a bona fide meteorologist. And he likes to go out and see what the weather's doing. But that's where the big hail could be today. And even a threat of it, too, in eastern Colorado. So just keep that in mind. That's today. What about tomorrow? Things calm down a little bit. Still the biggest threat, marginal severe weather conditions in South Florida. Then in the Central Plains, right where I just was. Wish I could just stay out there for a few weeks. That'd be fun. But, it's good to do my hurricane work, too. That's what I'm here for mainly, right? Anyhow, day 3, this would be going into Sunday. Day 1's today, day 2 Saturday. This is Sunday, the greatest threat, again, out basically in the heart of Tornado Alley. And then looking ahead real quick, if you have plans to travel out west or the Midwest or anywhere else for that matter, at least the weather, severe weather-wise, won't be a big problem. because, boy, we have our hands full with all kinds of other problems with flights and gas prices and everything else going on. So might as well throw some more bad news your way. But I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I did a little bit more digging on the flight back from Denver. And I'm telling you, it is just loaded for bear. Dr. Klotzbach, other agencies, from Weather Tiger to NC State, just trying to think, the NOAA forecast, other private companies, the consensus is we're going to have a very, very big hurricane season. It's all about probabilities. It really is. It's not a guarantee. And they could all be out at sea, even though that has its own set of impacts. That's obviously different than if they make landfall. We know that. But again, just showing you some data here from Dr. Klotzbach, the analogs. What does this year closely resemble in years past? If you kind of look at characteristics, kind of weather profiling, right? You can get these analogs. And what are we most similar to in terms of the patterns? And Dr. Klotzbach outlines it in 1996, 1999, 2000, 2008, 2011, and 2021. All of those fairly busy seasons. Really, the only one that wasn't impactful was 2000. And there you go. This is the breakdown of it in the table from Dr. Klotzbach. And this is what it looks like in terms of the overall configuration of sea surface temperatures. It's interesting because the main development region is actually cooler in this composite than the reality right now. And I wanted to show you that. Look at the main development region right down there, and then this horseshoe shape that comes around in the eastern Atlantic. This is a little bit warmer than what the composite shows, just for comparative purposes. So we may have a busier season overall than those analogs if this sticks around. We're already a few days into the season, not too much indication that the Atlantic's going to cool, and it might even warm a little bit more against the averages. Of course, it's warming every day because we're getting closer and closer to the highest sun angle, and there's that lag, so forth and so on. But, it is time to take this very seriously. The science is on our side. I keep saying that because this is not hype. It's not someone trying to benefit from it. We're using science to our benefit of humanity. In the case here, people that live in the Western Hemisphere, from the Eastern Pacific, from those hurricanes, even though that basin should have lower activity, we have this in our favor. And I'll take this over earthquakes, which have very little warning. Think about the volcano. What was it? Tonga? That, just blew up. No warning at all to speak of. I'll do this. At least you can get yourself and your stuff, most of it, out of the way. You can still lose your house, and it can still be very stressful and very economically difficult to recover from. But unlike earthquakes, violent tornadoes that are unsurvivable, like we had in 2011, the April 27th outbreak, Tuscaloosa, those events, more 1999, hurricanes give us the gift. That's the one thing. Even when they rapidly intensify, 12 hours before landfall, you can still say, I'm going to go ahead and leave. In most cases. Sometimes you can't, like Bolivar Peninsula. I'm just saying, we know they're coming, more than likely, so let's use that instead of being a negative and turn it into a positive here and be prepared mentally, physically, and financially. We call that fiscally, right? Different word there. And, use it to our advantage. We know what's coming, and let's get ready. Seriously. And I'll help you do what I can. I really will. Point you in the right direction to other people that know a lot. And as a community, social media, it's a good thing. There's a lot of darkness on social media, certainly, but the weather world, outside of skirmishes and egos, you just brush that aside, can be a very enlightening place. And I embrace that. So we've got Twitter, we do it on Facebook and YouTube. Those are our main three. And then a little bit here and there on Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram. We've got a great back-end crew that volunteer their time to help out, and I do appreciate that. And of course, we are crowd-funded. Most of the funding for this, all of these projects, the equipment, and all of the above is through Patreon. I invite you to check it out. Go to patreon.com or download the Patreon app. It is fantastic. Look HurricaneTrack up, easy, Hurricane TRACK, or just aim your device at the QR code. We'll make it even easier for you. And check out what we're doing. It's really exciting. A lot of back-end, behind-the-scenes stuff. We have Discord now, which is very active. I mean, it's just a great thing, and it's allowed us to do a lot. All right? All right, a lot to keep up with. Don't forget, each morning, I am 3 in a row. I haven't missed one yet. I do these early, well, fairly early in the morning for me, typically. It's called What's Up in the Tropics. A nice little cute name for it. And it's a brief, much briefer than this, look at what I'm looking at. You know, it's what's up? What's going on, Mark? Like if someone were to ask me, hey, man, what's up in the tropics? That's the idea. Every morning I put it on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Discord, Patreon, TikTok, whatever. Try to get it out to as many people as possible. And then later in the day, just like now, I put together the more in-depth and a lengthy hurricane outlook and discussion, kind of like a longer format update. All right? You get the idea. Good to have you along. If you're down in South Florida, be careful. If you're trying to fly in and out of that area, good luck to you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. That's going to be a nightmare as well. All right, that is it from me for today. I am Mark Sudduth for Hurricane Track. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.